All right, let's see. Today is October 6th, Kubernetes scaling SIG. And despite that phenomenal introduction, I'm so behind from my trip, I have really no idea what's going on. So, Joe, did you, Joe or Tim, someone?
Let's see, I can look at the notes. I was just back from a trip down to the Bay Area yesterday, so I'm catching up on stuff.
I think that the main point for today was the discussion about the load testing by Jeremy.
Yeah. Sebastian's here to talk about that. He can give an overview of some of that stuff. I think, and Jeremy's here now too. I think we could probably save that for the end and go through the quick items that are up a list. Like the SED3 perf issue. I was hoping Hong Chao would be on because I'm kind of curious what their timeline is for 3.1 and whether or not they're going to get that prev key fixed in place.
Wojtek was running some experiments with LCD like an hour ago.
I can't hear you guys. Jeremy, can you mute? You get a lot of background noise.
So Wojtek was running some HD3 tests an hour ago, so he can give some update as well.
Okay.
Great. I think Alejandro wanted to give an update on something as well. So yeah, I see that in the notes. So you want to do that second?
Sure.
All right. Who wants to go first? All right, go, Alejandro.
All right. First of all, I want to say thank you for everybody who actually looked at the PR in the agenda. If you could take care of the look. I've updated it based on our discussions from last week. Reviewed the video over again, make sure we capture everything. Please have a look at it again. I think it fully captures things, and if there's anything, let me know. And yeah, so as long as you all agree and it gets accepted, I can start working on an actual POC. So thank you again, and please have a look.
Maybe for folks who weren't here last week, maybe just like a one-liner on what you're referring to.
Oh.
Because I know there's some regular attendees, but there might be some folks who.
Yeah, just to review what it's about. It's about component configuration dumping. So getting those values from different components, and that's what it's about, really. So please have a look.
So one thread that I wanted to tie together there is that the component config stuff is becoming something that's important to the cluster lifecycle SIG, because there's this desire to be able to configure things without having to muck with command line flags and files in different places and sort of have the one true dynamic way to actually configure things. So there's sort of reasons to push that stuff forward as the way to do things across multiple angles.
Yep, I think we totally agree with that. In some respects, you might.
Okay, so.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff that we're working on might turn out to be totally tactical and something that, in the fullness of time, fades away, and that's fine.
Yeah, so I'm having some connection issues, so it's hard for me to hear. I think my internet's flaky this morning. So, Bob, I'll let you sort of pick the next agenda item and lead things because I think I'm having problems.
Well, was there some discussion on the etcd work that folks wanted to discuss, even though I still don't see Hung Chao here?
Yeah, if you have numbers, Wojtek, I'm all ears.
Basically, I don't know what was.
Unmuted.
So basically, I don't know what was mentioned last week because I wasn't there, but we discovered the significant like performance issues with watches in etcd with etcd3 enabled. We submitted like the first part of the fix like yesterday, and it's significantly improved, but it's still worse than etcd2 when I'm comparing it. And then Xiang said that he will send a like proof of concept like PR to check if their fix will actually work like by the end of this week, and hopefully like tomorrow on Monday we will be able to verify it, and if it helps, they will like. It's basically the idea is to backport some feature from 3.4.1 release etcd to 3.0. So we will see if that helps, and if so, they will backport it.
So the basic 50,000 foot summary, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the translation bit has an extra get inside of there to get the previous key. And that's the problem, is that on all the watches, we're trying to get the previous key. So there's an extra get in all of the update cycles.
Yeah, which basically significantly reduces the throughput of watch.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, we are still not sure if when we fix this problem, we won't face anything else. But like currently, this is the bottleneck.
And all upstream tests have been switched to 3.0.10, and we're running that against every PR now?
No. We have like a single suite that is running etcd3, but it's we want to also like set up like a pre-submit suite that will be running etcd3, and make the other suite that we actually already have that's running etcd3 underneath to be blocking, hopefully like within days.
Okay.
And I'm working on like some migration changes into our images that hopefully will be useful for open source also, but are necessary for like GKE. Though I'm trying to like make them all in open source so that like everyone can use them.
Sounds pretty good. Hey, Tim, I see that Clayton has a note here for today, although I don't see him online, about slated 1.5 to improve conversion and defaulting and marshalling performance.
He's not around today, so we've had several conversations about different aspects of performance optimizations. And I'm not exactly certain which one he's referring to there. So
he already started doing it. I'm reviewing his PR. So basically he is separating defaulting from conversion, which is supposed to reduce the number of like reflection calls, etc. in our code, which will basically like do all the defaulting like code to be auto-generated and stuff like that. So yeah, it hopefully will significantly speed up the conversion and defaulting.
yeah, as we go forwards, like our primary target in the pre-1.4 world was always CPU, right? And we're going to get to a point in the near-term future where we bump up against data model problems more so than raw CPU performance issues, right? Where the speed is because of how we pass data around the system and how we behave.
Yep. Is there a issue you can post in the notes there? Either Merrick or Tim.
Merrick would know the issue that Clayton submitted. If
If you could add that into the notes, it'd be great. And And it looks like, I just noticed it looks like Hung Chao joined us in a timely fashion here. We were, if you want to ask your question again, Marek, I think he's here.
Sorry?
Hung Chao's here now, I noticed. So we could maybe do a quick recap on the etcd3 and get some comment. Marek or Wojtek, one of the two.
About SE3, like you want to speak with Conchal?
I think that I talked with Xiang like today morning, so I'm not sure like I have anything to discuss.
I just have questions about time windows. Like, when are things going to drop for 3.0x with a backport or 3.1 release? Because we have a slight offset time window, so our window is closing.
We'll figure out by next week.
Okay, but by next week our window closes even more. So by next week, you'll know the window of when you're going to have those releases out?
Hi. So I think the first thing we need to figure out is like whether the like pre-KV will solve the problem. So like I think we are going to put up a PR today, and is going to help us to test it. And if that works or like fix the problem, we're going to backport stuff to 3.0 release, and we will do a release next week.
Okay. That answers my question.
Right, and Tim, your question here is about your schedule versus items in 1.5, or
yes,
something?
our schedule is more compressed, so our timeline is going to be earlier.
All right. I don't think we have any other topics for today.
Oh, well, we have this big topic about the test infrastructure from all the scale testing thingy. Also, I can, to let everyone know, like, especially the people who weren't here, like we have the perf tests repo that like the owners are me, Wojtek, and Tim. Like currently it has configured CLA bots and some really simple Travis. But like it's usable. So if you want to store your stuff there, like you work on like keep some, like you look for a repo or place where you want to store the things related to perf testing, that's the repo. We can iterate much faster than the main one. And about using it in the E2E test, like on the CI for main Kubernetes, like I am meeting with, I think Eric Feita mostly on Monday, so I will know more, like what's the timeline about like moving the all performance tests from the main repo to this one, but it will happen eventually. It kind of depends on how much work it needs and like what's their plan.
So essentially, you'll be able to run the E2E tests from this new repo? Is that what you're saying, Eric?
In a sense, like, I don't really know what like, this means, like to run the end-to-end test from this repo, but something along this line. So like use this stuff from this repo to run end-to-end tests or something.
It's a subset of those tests. So it's basically the perf-related tests, rip them out of the main repo, and then extend them into the other one. So they're just leveraging the frameworks as a library.
Yep. Yeah, but as I said, like I am meeting with guys like next Monday, so I will know more like next week.
So I'm sorry if I missed this, but I just wanted to clarify, is the density test going to be moved to this repo, or has it already been?
It's not yet. There's no decision yet. Like probably, like I think it makes sense, but like I don't know if there's it needs some work. I don't know if anyone has time to actually move it. Like we'll see.
Marek, just to clarify, does this involve, so the current E2E tests are pretty intertwined with each other. They're all in one package and it's a bit of a mess. and we have the same problem in various other areas. Federation tests, for example, should also move out of there, but they're kind of stuck in there because of all the spaghetti. Are you guys planning to de-spaghettyize that for the performance tests? And if so, I would be happy to help you. Or there are numerous groups that have a similar requirement which involve the same work.
It appeared the SIG testing, so they also want this to happen.
Okay, maybe I should speak to them. It's pretty.
Yeah, I can add it to you to the meeting on Monday.
Perfect. Thank you.
I was taking this as in the nature of an update to this group from work that's going on in the SIG testing arena. Is that sort of the nature of the discussion, or is the idea that this is really kind of the home SIG for some of this work? Okay.
Should we hand over the rest of the time to Jeremy?
Can you verify that, Tim?
I can't hear what you said. You're talking through the separate speaker.
Yeah, Tim, I'm not sure if you could hear that because we're having some mic issues here of our own. The home SIG for this effort, is it testing SIG, or is it this SIG?
The perf tests most likely will be us. The actual de-spaghettification, that crosses boundaries.
Yep, and we will just be the first user probably. So we kind of need to help them.
Yeah. Normally I would have had this conversation probably with Aaron already, but I've been out and now he's out. So I'll make sure we touch base with him as well to make sure we're understanding what's happening.
All right, I want to make sure Jeremy's got enough time to go through the details here.
Okay, yep, sorry, go Jeremy.
Okay, hi guys. So, assuming all of that stuff you guys just went over is ultimately sorted out, we want to, okay, so I went over this mostly with the SIG testing guys last week because, you know, we're not sure if the block is the right word, but we need a home for our stuff, and we need to consume, or we want to consume E2E. Our stuff is in Python. Sebastian and the rest of the gang are going to re-implement in Go a couple of our tests that are currently OpenShift focused, but we want to get out of that situation to the point where it can work on any distro or master Kubernetes itself. So we have the guys from CNCF are doing something similar to what we already had. And so basically what we have is kind of, I sort of call it like a version of density with a lot of additional capabilities. I think density is actually, we could use this tool, in fact, probably to replace density because it's a one use case within a larger thing. So I asked Sebastian to put together some diagrams about how all this is laid out and what the tools actually does. We're talking about a tool called Cluster Loader, and then we have some additional tests as well, some network tests, some storage tests. And we also got a workload generator that actually puts work on the cluster after it's all stood up and all the objects are created. That's a high-level view. And maybe, Sebastian, do you want to go through the couple of diagrams that you have just to show what we're trying to get written?
Absolutely. Let me just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially it's a pretty straightforward pattern. We're just trying to load up the cluster with different objects, I guess you can call them. So this is the basic function that we are looking to create. So you have that, you start the application, parses everything out, has a config object that has various data inside of it, creates a namespace based on this config object, and then iterates through if X exists, various things that can be, such as a quota, a template, service, user, a pod, RC, and then creates however many of them it needs to do that, and then iterates through to the next potential namespace or project, and creates everything. It just spins up the cluster with however many applications that it can do. We've also extended this to not only have sample applications, for example, like what we call quick starts that allow clients to easily get just basic applications running like Redis or whatever it might be, WordPress and a backend. But additionally, it extends to having load generation and stress tools as well that can run against the cluster that's already running. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. It's pretty straightforward, but we just need to migrate it from what exists now in Python, like Jeremy said, to Golang. And we would like to leverage E2E, and it seems like the new perf repo that is owned by Marek and you guys would be the potential home for that right now.
Yeah, so in summary, a tool that can create a beehive of activity within the cluster. And the idea there is to put more, more realistically simulate what the customers are going to see and do. So as you guys are maybe aware, OpenShift has like a source to image workflow that includes builds and shifting images all around. So we have interest in stressing that part of the system as well. But post deployment, we want to have load put on it. So we've got this, as Sebastian mentioned, a JMeter test, a syslog test, which stresses the logging plane, and then also some CPU-bound tests. The idea is we don't know yet, because this is still just like open heart surgery time for that set of tests, but so I can't say exactly what we'll learn, but I know that the top-end scale numbers are just not achievable when you start putting all of this other stuff on the cluster as well. And I think that's the important thing we're trying to tease out of this study is what's a realistic top end scale, that's got busy, a lot of work, a lot of users, we got a web interface to deal with, all of that stuff put together. Then what do the scale numbers really look like? That's what we're trying to build a test to identify.
Yeah, and I think we should at some point, probably sooner rather than later, at this SIG discuss what exactly you want to measure, right? Because obviously you can put any load on the cluster and you get some results, but before we know actually what we are interested in, there's no point of this experiment. So I think we probably can add it to the next week agenda to discuss what kind of load, what kind of stress test, what kind of load you want to put on a cluster.
Yes, we can do a walkthrough of what we have so far and find out, what would make sense from what we already have, and then what's missing. I think the most basic things that people ask are, what are the page load times for an application? What is the cross-machine, network latencies? Most of the questions are really about user experience. Yeah, but
those questions are kind of not. It's hard to for example, network throughput between nodes. It strongly depends on where you're running, right?
I think
if
sure.
AWS on-prem with Flannel or Calico.
Indeed, and it's not necessarily about the raw performance as much as it is, verifying best practices for configuration, being able to provide diagnostics for customers if they have issues in the field. So it's not about building the fastest possible system more than it is learning about what the capabilities are to identify if there's things we need to fix.
I think that we should concentrate on stuff that we actually can fix. I don't think we can, of course, see how quickly we work on Calico or Weave or something. But more important stuff is this things that we can actually, as this SIG, improve, the stuff throughput of some controllers or reaction time of something or whatever. It's things that we as a Kubernetes team can actually work on.
I think this would be actionable. So I agree that clusters are going to be so different that trying to use the absolute numbers that come out of an effort like this are going to be pretty hard to interpret, but I think the value in terms of catching regressions could be very, very good. So if we have a standard cluster set up in standard environments with realistic workloads, and who cares how many page loads a second the application can generate, but if we're able to use that in a regression way so that a new release comes out, there's some check, we ought to at least make sure that we're not going backwards on an application benchmark.
Yeah.
I think what might be beneficial too, because we're talking a lot about the capabilities in kind of an abstract fashion. What we can kind of maybe do next time, because we're running a little low on time, is maybe do a walkthrough of how we specified a specific template that we measure for what we call master horizontal scalability test plan. And that's a very finite set of work that we do to measure master performance. And we have other tooling besides the cluster loader that also does the monitoring of that data. And that between the load generation and the monitoring, we then find actionable items. So that's where typically, if you see Clayton and I running around logging issues, that's usually from the results of those test executions.
Oh, good. And also, like the month from now, it is KubeCon, like on the Dev Summit. Like, do we plan on having some in-person SIG meeting or something?
Excellent point. I think we absolutely should. Our office space is not too far from where the conference is. So if there's interest in getting together face to face, I'm happy to offer our office space as a place to schedule a meetup.
You can probably like send. Can you send like some proposal or whatever, like to the SIG scale group?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that.
Great, thanks.
I thought I saw some mailing list traffic about that already, that there wasn't critical minutes, but maybe it's.
Oh, then I missed it.
There was I know I saw a bunch of mailing list traffic on the scheduler SIG trying to figure out how many people.
See, I must have my wires crossed then. Sorry.
Okay, so it looks like for next week we have more of the same on this testing. It'd be great, and then a follow up on the etcd progress.
Yep.
At a minimum.
And hopefully I'll give you then an update on the perf tests info and how ready it is to be used like in end-to-end tests.
Excellent. All right. I think it's a wrap. All right. See everyone at the community meeting.
See you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.